always an issue in prison. They had the cliche in prison, a Tylenol solved cancer. A Tylenol solved everything. During those 25 years of incarceration, I was an advocate for the inmates. I was a paralegal. I sat on disciplinary committees, filed grievance for inmates. During that period, the grievance procedure, I had a staff member teach me at one time, a staff member, that when you file a grievance, always cite their policy. It took their power away from them. Because when you file a grievance, they give you the standard answer. You was seen in medical, such and such day, etc. You was given this or that. The grievance procedure in medical, pertaining to medical, it's a joke. It's a joke. I've seen people actually die waiting for outside medical assistance. I laugh about this now. At that time, I was trying to decide what I was going to do in prison. They was offering a nursing class, nursing. I said, well, my mother's in that profession. She's retired from that profession. I said, I'm going to do this. Just couldn't do it. I completed a week of the course. Went back to a caseworker and asked him I'd like to change to something else. I watched a guy one night just literally crying his guts out in pain, hurting. He was knocking on his, you're locked in a room to start with. The room that you are is a secure room, so they're talking through you through a little a hole in the door with a bunch of holes in it, like a screen they speak to you through. And that night, that guy just kept literally crying. I'm in pain, I'm hurting. And all they gave me was Tylenols. I got off of that shift that night about 11 o'clock. The next day that I returned, he was dead. He died. And it's just sad. It's sad. I'm fortunate during my incarceration. I didn't have any major medical issues, and I'm very thankful for that. I've had friends with medical issues. If you don't have a outside voice calling into the correctional facilities about whatever issue it is you're dealing with, you SOL in prison when it comes to medical. A lot of the doctors that they hire in prison, they don't care. Some have came from other states where their license were revoked, crossed the state line, come right into the correctional facilities. You're a doctor. It's sad. It's sad. I can feel for any family that has lost a loved one in prison related to something medically. Stab wounds, they were great. If you got assaulted in prison with a stab wound, that was great. But if you had an illness that required outside treatment that the facility couldn't provide, you had to jump through 1,000 loops just to get to an outside hospital. And most times, once you got there, it was too late. It was too late. I known guys that were paroled because they're on their last leg, where the state don't want to pay any more money, so we'll parole you. You can die on the outside, or you can try to seek whatever. You don't have number 3 months left, 6 months left, so you got a medical parole. And they were correct. Get out here, 2 or 3 months later, they're deceased. I always helped in prison. I guess it was just in me. Especially once I learned their policies. Once I learned DOC policies, I was not looked upon favorably. I was called an inmate lawyer. My cell was always ransacked, looking maybe for documents. But I've called where people were sick and a guy would give you that immediate family phone number. Charles, if anything ever happens to me or whatever, would you call my mom, etc. And I would do that. Once I met Karen kind of educated me on different questions or information that you should relay to the family. They should do this, they should do that, etc. But she always emphasized to me, document. Because verbally, it doesn't mean nothing. But she always emphasized for me to always document, written document, file a grievance, because they have to respond to them. And that is something that I always did. I watched several friends just pass away in prison, medically, through the medical. Just sit there and die. Their first classification, natural death. I would call the family. I called a mother, a guy, I can remember a guy that I was a real good friend of mine. He had cancer. And they never got him outside of the prison to look at it. And I watched this guy just go from this healthy person, muscular person. We walked to prison grounds daily, play basketball. I watched him go to that person just to being confined to a bed and die. I communicated with his mother. This was before I met Karen in the Wrongful Death Institute. I communicate with his mom, trying to tell her what to do, what not to do. Don't believe this, don't believe that. I'm telling you, your son is dying. And when he died, they classified his death as a natural death. I stressed to her to get another autopsy. Don't believe what the state said or whatever. But by her not really knowing the system and what to go through, what to do, what not to do, she just accepted her son's death. She just accepted. Charles, I don't want to pursue it anymore. He's in a better place. That's how she looked at it. I totally agree with Karen. The system's not going to change. I won't dispute that at all. But families must educate themselves on what they can and cannot do while that loved one is incarcerated. The Wrongful Death Institute has been very helpful with me. I've referred families to the Wrongful Death Institute. Friends that I know that have loved ones in prison that are having medical issues or whatever, I refer them to Karen and tell them, you have to cross your T's and dot your I's. It's a must, because otherwise they cannot help you. But I think families need, I think the community as a whole needs to be more educated on the do's and the don'ts. I think that a lot of families lack that knowledge of what they can do, who to contact, who not to contact. Don't just take this, respond, and be content with it. There's always another level to go to. But it's very important that if Wrongful Death Institute asks you to do such and such, complete it. Because that is a tool that's giving them a little bit more leverage with trying to help your loved one. I would refer any family to the Wrongful Death Institute that has a problem while incarcerated, because I trust them. I trust them. I've seen them work. I've seen results. I've seen Karen fight. I've seen Karen stay up late hours trying to figure it out. Karen has called me and picked my brain with the little bit of knowledge that I have. Charlie, what angle you think I should go at with this, or what do you think about this? I've seen her fight for people she don't even know. Don't have an idea who they are. It's not always a face related to the issue. You have to come together as a community. You have to share the information of what the Wrongful Death Institute can do for your loved one. I know that medical issues exist in every correctional facility in every state. Every state. You have approximately 2.5 million people that is incarcerated in the United States. There are people dying in prison every day. Once I was released and I was able to put a face with the name Karen Russo, they had medical issues everywhere. She was telling me about issues in Australia, Texas, Louisiana. They're everywhere. What people have to understand, if I refer you to the Wrongful Death Institute for some assistance, you have to do what they ask you to do. Don't go on your passion, your emotions at that time. I'm just looking for some help. I done lost my brother, I done lost my father, I done lost my uncle, I done lost my aunt, my niece, my grandmother, my mom, or whatever. When the Wrongful Death Institute asks you to do this, obtain this document, do this, make this, it's for a reason. It's for a reason. It's for a reason. And you have to complete that. If you really want some tasks, if you really want some answers, to dig that dirt, because there's layers and layers of dirt there. Documents will come up missing. So some things you have to react to immediately before they're destroyed, they altered, or we don't have them no more, or that never existed. The offender never did this. That's why it's very important to document. And when you call the Wrongful Death Institute and whoever you speak to, and they ask you to obtain this document or do this or do, it's very important that you do that. It's very important that that is done. And it's asked for a reason. You may not totally understand it, but you called someone asking for some help. They understand. Put your trust in them. Put your trust there. Put your trust there. As I stated earlier, the system is not going to change. But if we came together, we can make some changes with the system. We can provide a better health care in prison. I honestly believe that. I believe it. I'm a firm believer that knowledge is power. The more knowledge you have, the more powerful you are. And when you put a group of people, a mass of people together with knowledge pertaining to that system, the do's and the don'ts, you can bring some changes. You can save some lives. But it don't only take the word of mouth. Sometimes it takes a little monetary. $2, $5, whatever you can afford. You never know, it may save a life. That $5 donation or that $10 donation or the $100 donation could save a life. You could see your loved one on this side again in good health. Versus where we stand today, a medical issue, why incarcerated? It could be a death sentence. Seriously. It could be a death sentence.